Hello, neighbor. I'm Robert Burns, and welcome once again to another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. Today, it is my distinct pleasure to have Mr. Brett Lang and Mr. Tucker Lang joining us, and they have some concerns that they'd like to spell out about DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services. That's an agency that has been in the news quite a bit lately, and not in a favorable light. And for those in the Baton Rouge viewing area, I'm sure you've seen numerous features by Chris Nakamoto, but it's an agency that's got its problems, let's just say that. And these two gentlemen are going to relay some of their frustrations in dealing with that agency. And I believe in I have been provided with material, and we're going to break away at certain points to give very short snippets of a recording that Mr. Brett Lang had with some of these DCF officials. But Brett, why don't you go ahead and chime in now about what was your biggest frustration that prompted you to reach out to Sound Off Louisiana and to come and visit with us today?
Thank you. The biggest frustration I have with the agency right at this point is they're not for the children, the best interest of the children.
And when you say that, you've had a personal experience that
Correct.
And can you guide us just a little bit on what that personal experience was, and then we'll get into some of the specifics.
So I became a certified foster parent. I used to be the president of CASA, the 16th JDC, which CASA advocates for children who are neglected and abused. I gave that up, decided I wanted to become a foster parent where it was hands-on. I took the course, got certified through DCFS. My first placement was a 5-week-old baby girl and her 2.5-year-old brother. They were with me from the end of September to the end of September of 2021 to the end of May 2022.
Okay.
During that time, one of the issues was the little boy was having ear infections constantly.
Okay.
I took him, doctor wanted to put tubes in his ears, contacted DCFS to let them know because I was their guardian. DCFS has custody of him. So DCFS has to be there to sign any medical forms because they had to put him to sleep in order to do the procedure.
Okay.
Contacted DCFS, let them know that the surgery was scheduled. They canceled it the first time. We rescheduled. They canceled the second time. They tried canceling the third time. The worker did. The worker told the doctor or the doctor's office, that 5 o'clock in the morning is not within her work hours, so she would not be there. They need to cancel and schedule whenever she would be there.
Oh.
So at that point, I went up their chain of command.
Mm-hmm. Did that result in anything any better than, hey, 5 o'clock ain't gonna work for me?
Correct. The manager told me to keep it on the schedule, and if she had to be there, she would show up.
Oh, okay. So that's wonderful.
And that's what happened. She ended up showing up for him to have his procedure done.
Okay.
And ever since then, I've just had issues with the agency. You know, matter of fact, they told the biological mom, that if they ever came back into care, they would not come to my house, which I think is absurd, you know.
Wow. And more recently...
So unfortunately, well, since they went back to their biological mom,
mm-hmm.
She allowed me to continue a relationship with the children. They would come to my house every other weekend and stay. In October, the end of October, I had a stroke, and Mom needed a place to go, so she reached out to a close friend of mine and said, hey, I need a place to go, and I allowed them to come to my house. That way, you know, I knew the kids were safe if they were at my house.
Sure.
So they came to my house and stayed for like 5 days, and then she left, and the agency is holding it against me.
Correct, and I've heard what you're referring to, and I believe you emphasized that it was not even consecutive days.
Correct, it was 5 days. Then for Christmas, they came Christmas night. She brought them Christmas night so that we could open gifts with them.
Mm-hmm.
and she stayed Christmas night and the night after, and then left. And it seems the agency's trying to say that she was living with, that they were living with me, which wasn't the case.
Okay. So that is one of the bases upon which they made the decision that
Correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the mom relapsed. She has a history of drug use. She relapsed, and they said I should have reported that, which I had, in the clip that you have, you'll hear, I had no knowledge of mom relapsing. She wasn't going to, I'm a police officer. She wasn't going to do that at my house.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, folks, let's break away for just a little bit, because as he referred, we've got the audio of that in a recorded phone call with DCFS officials, and let's break away for just a moment and let you hear the interaction that he had with regard to the birth mother and their belief that he had a duty to report what they are assessing as the fact she's using. Let's break away for just a moment.
Drugs? If I would have known that, I'd have called the police and then called y'all. How can y'all sit there and say that I knew she was on drugs?
Well,
that she was using.
I know you stated that the other day, but in one of the references that was sent, and you were copied on all of those references that were sent.
When she said about dropping them off at the restaurant?
I'm not sure if that's the same one, but there was a reference that indicated that you and the reference were together, and you saw the children, and they were very dirty. They were not being cared for. The mother looked horrible, and you knew that she was on drugs at that point.
She always looks horrible. The kids always look messy. But y'all want me to call y'all if a kid looks dirty? Y'all ain't gonna do nothing. So, why call? And I'm not gonna speculate. If I don't have no proof, I'm not gonna accuse somebody of doing something if I don't have no proof. I can sit here and say, your eyes are jumping that you're on drugs, but that's a speculation. Right? Is that fair for me to speculate and accuse somebody of doing something that I don't have proof that they're doing?
Well, given that you knew that the children were at risk of harm because they had been abused before, and like you mentioned to me the other day, you had suspicion that you acknowledged yourself, you had suspicion of the mom being back on drugs, which was further explained by your reference who indicated when y'all saw the mom, she appeared to be under the influence. There was a concern about the children at that point.
I'm not going to say she appeared to be under the influence. I'm going to say she was just disheveled. Like she was, like the kids were dirty. That's the way she appeared. But she's always like that. One day, I remember one day we went to get the kids. Went to see the kids at the church. And somebody, when they opened Tree's car door, there was trash piled up in the back seat, like on the floor. And it was falling out the car. She's just not a clean person.
But how did that fit along with your indication that you had suspicion? So she was disheveled, the kids were dirty, you were suspecting it.
It wasn't because of that. It was because one weekend I had the kids, and I was supposed to bring them back to her on Sunday. Well, I called and couldn't get a hold to her. So at that point, I drove to her house. I found out where she lived. I drove to her house. Her car wasn't there. She had a padlock on the door, so I knew she wasn't home. So I called the preacher's wife and asked because I knew she talked to. And I asked if she knew, because she lives right down the road. She said no, she hadn't talked to her. So that just like going off the grid is common when people are using. But I can't accuse the woman of using. I've never seen her. I've never seen anything. Which she knows she can't do that around here.
How do you think that it affected the safety of the children?
What? They were with me. They were safe. They were with me.
that point?
She admitted to me that no. She said the only time she used was whenever the kids were with me. Because I asked her, I told her, I said, don't lie to me, you know. And she admitted that when she relapsed, it was when the kids, it was what, 2-3 weekends ago when they were here, when the kids were in my care. So I mean, the accusations y'all are making are ridiculous. If I would have known that she was using, if I had proof that she was using, I would have reported it, because I don't want those kids. Because
what proof would you have needed to feel that it warranted a report?
If I would have went to put the kids in the car in their seatbelts or something, and I would have seen needles or drug paraphernalia or something that, you know, I could say, hey, you know, I know she has at that point, I know she has a history, but, you know, I believe she's using because I went to put the kids in the car and this is what I saw. I mean, I can't say somebody's on drugs just because they're dirty. You know, not everybody's clean. And I know she is not a clean person.
So whenever you said that the other day when we talked, you said you did suspect it. What made you suspect it?
I just got finished telling you that. Like her going off the grid when I would have the kids, not answering her phone, and her excuse was she didn't have no tail lights. She was way out. Well, I mean, my thing is, if you know you don't have tail lights, then why ain't you home during the day? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you leaving?
So what would that look like if the children were placed in your home and there was suspicion? Would you not inform the agency and the court unless you saw needles in the car? Or unless you had absolute proof? I guess I'm just trying to assess.
So, I mean, it sounds like you're wanting me to accuse people of using drugs just because they have a past of using drugs. If I, you know, without any proof. I can't prove that. You know, I have, just because, you know, people, I mean, if she walked, you know, she walked up and I smelled weed, but I know weed is not her drug of choice. She likes speed, you know, meth. And
I
meth.
guess what I would expect is that if you suspected, because of your knowledge of her, because of your history as a police officer, because of your concern about the impact on the safety of the children, because when you saw her, you and the reference that made mention of the concerns about the children being dirty, the mom looking like she had used drugs, that there would have been suspicion enough to say, hey, DCFS, it's not my job to determine whether the mom is on drugs and it's affecting, but I need to report a suspicion so that you all can investigate and look at the safety of these children. That's what I would have.
I reported a kid getting hit at daycare that I witnessed. I had proof. I saw. Did DCFS investigate it? I ain't heard from nobody. And this woman, I didn't have an issue with this woman. Like every time I'd walk in there, we'd clown together.
And so, and I understand you're looking at that issue, but let's stay on this issue.
Okay, no, that's fine. But you're trying to get me to accuse somebody of being on drugs when I have no proof. Just because somebody looks it, don't mean that they are.
Okay.
I mean, why would I call y'all to say, hey, you know, she brought me the kids dirty, and she was dirty, and you know.
Well, in isolation, I could definitely understand that we don't expect anyone to call us anytime they see a child dirty. But knowing by your self-admission that you suspected it.
But the thing is, just about every time I would get the kids, they were dirty. I mean, you know, so I bathed, you know.
Okay, I understand.
All righty, folks. I think you could have listened for yourself and know that they basically put the burden on his back. And as I recall, you said that, hey, if I had seen actual evidence to know that she was using, then I certainly would have reported it. And I think their counter was that, well, that she's bringing the children back dirty, and of course she's dirty herself. And you said that that's a common occurrence, and my first priority is, to get them in like a good bath. So I know that's one of the things that they've held against you, as you using your words. Can you go through?
Well, I mean, you heard, everybody's standard of cleanliness is not the same. What I consider clean, somebody else may not consider clean. What you consider clean, I may not consider clean. And had I truly believed the children were in danger, I mean, I've even offered Mom, hey, if you relapse and you need to go seek treatment, let me know. I will take the kids, while you're getting treatment.
Okay.
Because, I mean, they shouldn't be in DCFS custody. If I can help it.
Sure. And
I'm, as a police officer, if I called DCFS every single time I came upon a child who was dirty, like they're saying I should have reported it, they'd have to have all the state employees at my beck and call to investigate it. I mean, kids are kids, and they're going to be dirty.
I was as a kid.
I did bathe them daily. I never saw no indications of bruises, cigarette burns, anything that would show that they were being physically abused.
Well, and I think that,
I mean, and they were, like I said, they were with me every other weekend. So, the little boy would talk. While he was with me the first time, I got him into speech therapy because he wasn't really talking. I got him speech therapy, now he's talking.
Well, that's great. I want to bring up a second issue. We're going to break away for just a second because this whole conversation with these folks started out in faulting Mr. Lang about a dentist. That they said, well, there's a dentist who has said he's not going to work with him. And I want us to break away because I think what you're about to hear is pretty startling. And I don't want to put words into Mr. Lang's mouth. Let's break away for just a moment and allow you to hear this interaction with these DCFS officials about this dentist. We'll be right back.
As far as that dentist, I found there was another dentist that the kids go to. Did y'all contact them? Did y'all contact the kids' doctors? I have a good relationship. As a matter of fact, one of the doctors gave me her cell phone number to text her if I ever needed anything.
Okay, so the dentist, what about the one who, I don't know who it is, the one who said they're not willing to work with you anymore?
I wasn't willing to bring the kids back over there.
Well, what happened with that? What happened to deteriorate a relationship with the dentist?
Well,
to the
once. The problem was you could never get a hold to them. They tell you to leave a message, they'd never call you back. And I brought my oldest over there. And we were there for like an hour and they hadn't even seen him. No x-rays, no nothing. And I had to say something to him. So I told him we were leaving.
And you think that's why they will no longer see any of your children is because you said you were leaving that day?
Right. That's the letter that they sent me.
That's unusual for someone, we don't typically have providers that aren't willing to work with foster parents or with individuals in general because of difficulty working with the individual.
I mean, like I said, did y'all call the doctor? Did y'all talk to the doctor's office? Did y'all talk to the dentist's caps on his teeth?
We did not.
Exactly.
No.
So apparently y'all are not doing a thorough investigation. I mean, you're going to go off of what one person says?
All right, we're back. Mr. Lang, they've just had the opportunity to hear what you supplied to me earlier, and I was appalled that, number one, they didn't even contact the dentist that is saying he won't work with you. My personal opinion is your statements that you've lined up another dentist who is more than adequately able to provide the dental care fell on deaf ears. I mean, I can interpret it no other way. What we just listened to, than that. Do you concur with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you like to add anything?
But the thing is, I took the little boy that was the first dentist that I could get him into. I took him there. Whenever Tucker came in to live with me, I had to bring him to the dentist. We waited there for over an hour. I had to get him out of school. We waited there for over an hour without anyone seeing us at Smiles Dentistry in New Iberia. So I told Tucker we're gonna leave because, I mean, we're just sitting there. Nobody's ever even came in the room. So I got up, I told staff members we were leaving, and they got upset that we were leaving. I said, well, we've been here for an hour. And then they sent me a letter stating that they would not see, they didn't want to have a relationship with me anymore, which was fine with me because I found another dentist.
And I think you made that pretty clear in that audio we just heard. And maybe this is just me, but I don't think it carried much weight with him. That's my opinion. I'm sure many of the listeners.
They made a claim that the daycare don't want to work with me.
That's where I was going to go next. So I'd like to say something on that because this one kind of touches at my own heart, and I'll let it go at that. People can read into that anything they want. But he said that there was a daycare that would not work with him, or child care facility that would not work with him. I want us to break away, and I want you to hear exactly what they say, and importantly, what Mr. Lang says about an incident he witnessed, and he did the proper thing. He did the thing he's supposed to do as a police officer, and I want you to listen to the reaction when he poses a question of them. Let's break away for just a moment.
The daycare, I walked in and there was a worker that was hitting a kid in the head, and I went and told the lady that was running the daycare. And then I reported it to DCFS because that's what I'm required to do by law.
Right.
And I never heard anything from y'all regarding that matter. So of course they don't want, there were incidences where marks on him, and they couldn't tell me why he had marks on him. And I explained to him, I have to answer for this. And I would make him document it. That way nobody could say that I put those marks on him.
One of the other areas of concerns identified is about like what we talked about the other day, the boundaries and the concern about the relationship.
All righty, folks, you just heard it. There was no editing there. You heard that episode, and I'm just going to tell you individually that infuriates me, and I for personal reasons, and I'm letting it go with that. But it infuriates me because I have zero tolerance for what he has alleged happened at a daycare when he's going to pick up, and to have admitted, hey, we didn't investigate it, is absolutely infuriating, and especially for an agency that is under this kind of already dark cloud. I think it's inexcusable. Now, I guess I got on my high horse there, but you go ahead and elaborate further, because I was infuriated when I heard that.
So what happened is I went to pick the children up after I got off work one day, and they have two separate buildings, one for the infants, and that's where I went to pick up the little girl. When I went in, as I opened the door, I witnessed one of the employees who I have we used to get along. We were, when I would drop them off, pick up, we would joke around. I don't know her personally other than at the daycare. Mm-hmm. I opened the door and I witnessed her hitting a child in the face right there. So as soon as I witnessed it, I got the baby out of there, went next door and told the director of the facility, St. Anne's, that's where it happened at, St. Anne's in New Iberia. Mm-hmm. I told the director, and then I left, made a phone call to DCFS because by law I'm mandated to report anything that I witnessed such as that, and that's what I did.
You did the responsible thing, the thing you're supposed to do.
And I never heard back from, the agency regarding the investigation. I believe their policy is they are supposed to contact you within 72 hours, the investigator. Never once have I heard from them.
And that's the part that infuriates me. And folks, you heard it. So it's not something of the entirety of the material that Sound Off was provided with prior to us conducting this interview, the clip you just heard is the one that really angers me the most.
So obviously, obviously a daycare center don't want to work with somebody. They don't want to take kids with somebody who's going to report them. And if I don't have evidence of this, but I was told that this same daycare had to terminate teachers, or staff several years ago for the same thing.
Wow.
So, like I said, I don't have any evidence of that. That's just what I was told by a mom who used to send her child there.
I understand. Well, and like I said, for personal reasons, that really, really infuriates me. So, do you want to tell anybody anything else? And like to get Tucker to weigh in on if you'd like. So, anything further you'd like to add? And I want to thank you for coming out because I want you to. That's why this blog was formed.
Well, this thing is, DCFS in Lafayette is upset with me, and they're trying. We went to court. I actually filed a petition to get custody of these kids because I've maintained a relationship with these kids. So what DCFS did was they took them, and when they investigated mom, they called me.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently my word was good enough whenever they called me, to investigate mom. But now, so I filed a petition with the 15th Judicial District Court to get custody of these children, being, I'm fictive kin to them. They know me, they know my son. And it was denied based on DCFS telling, and I was trying to do it without DCFS even having to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you don't, in that case, you don't get paid by DCFS, which the money that DCFS pays for a child, I can tell you I spend more than what they allot a month,
Mm-hmm.
Per child.
Mm-hmm.
But DCFS went in the courtroom. I wasn't even allowed in the courtroom, just the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
As a police officer, I have to, if I'm making accusations against somebody, I have to provide evidence.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the judge took the word of DCFS that I wasn't certified because in October I did have a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So I DCFS suspended me as a foster because I wasn't able to take care of it,
Mm-hmm.
which, I was agreeable with that.
Understandable, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But once, I got medical clearance from the doctors that I was able to take care of to foster again, I provided that to my home development worker, and then I had to provide bank statements, which I have text messages where I took pictures and sent it to DCFS. They said I have text messages that you
Yes.
provided to you that
Yes.
that shows that foster care was advised that I was certified. So they went in the courtroom and told the judge that I was not certified, so they lied about that. Then they went and told the judge that I had knowledge mom was using again, which, what evidence do they have of that?
Mm-hmm.
There's none. They're making accusations that could put me in a real serious situation.
Sure.
Job-wise.
Yeah, you can't just make an accusation without having evidence.
So once I received those text messages, and I was told everyone in the courtroom, all the kid's attorney, mom's attorney, everybody in the courtroom was in favor of the kids coming to me. It was DCFS who was opposed to it.
Wow. Unbelievable.
They didn't want to work with me because I held their feet to the fire with, the tubes and, the other things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to back down. And, they're short foster parents right now.
No, exactly.
Well, let me go back. So I emailed the screenshots of the text messages from the home development manager to the judge's secretary, and told him that he had been deceived. He still didn't go back and he just left it as is. So in Louisiana they have, it's supposed to be nationwide, QPI, where they want the foster parents to help with facilitating with the bio parents. In other words, they want us all to work together as a
Sure.
team
Mm-hmm.
for the best interest of the kid. Because when they come into care, no matter what the abuse, no matter what the situation is, the first thing that DCFS wants, their goal is reunification. They want the kids to go back to the parents,
Mm-hmm.
which, I don't agree with it because if a person is in a domestic abuse relationship, they don't have to go through mediation, you know, to get a divorce or any kind of counseling to get a divorce to get away from the abuser. So why is the agency, DCFS, automatic goal to put them back with the parents? You know, history repeats itself.
Well, exactly, and I do think that's the only instance in that material that you supplied to me that you did get an apology out of them, and that was with regard to the fact that you had communicated that you were certified, and I believe it was something along the lines of, well, did that come a few hours before the hearing or something, which it apparently did. But
It was days. I supplied.
Oh, it was days? Okay.
Yeah, so I supplied all the required documentations on the Thursday.
Okay.
It cleared up the status. The hearing was on the Monday, so they had Friday. I mean, they could have logged into their computers. I mean, they all bring their stuff to court. They could have logged into their computers to see the status before they went in there and lied to the judge, and didn't even have to present anything. That's the killer part. You know, no evidence had to be presented. Where, you know, but they can make accusations against me.
That you weren't certified when in reality you were.
Correct.
Wow.
And it's not about me, it's about those two children, because what they did is they take them and put them in an emergency foster, which I went to court Monday. When I went to court, the emergency foster parent that was there, the lady, she sat beside me and she said, "What do they call you?" I said, "Papa." And she said, "Well, because the little boy keeps asking to go to your house." Well, I said, "You know, of course he does."
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I also heard that he'd also said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd like to have my hair cut.
Like Tucker.
Like, I thought so.
Like
So
they cut he used to have long hair. They cut his hair, and now he wants it done like Tucker's, combed to the side.
well, and there probably some young ladies out there that would say, yeah, Tucker's got a really nice haircut there. So I think that's incredible that
Well, I mean, they have a bond.
That's what I was about to say, that a bond got formed such that, hey, I want my hair cut like Tucker's, you know, so.
You know, when he comes on the weekend, you know, his thing, he wants to sleep with Tucker.
Well, then.
And 2 peas in a pie.
Well, I want to thank you for coming out.
You know, and I want to call on the state legislatures to open an investigation into DCFS. You know, I've emailed the governor's office. They said they'd get back with me within 3 days. I still haven't heard from them.
All right. Well, and also, I'll just add something in. I have reason to believe that you're not the only one that's similarly situated in this type matter. And I realize it takes a little bit of guts and courage to come forth and to present what you have just done. And I want to commend you and also Tucker for agreeing to come today. I think you've done a fantastic. Well, thank y'all so much. If either of you has, I know Tucker, you've been kind of just silently along for the ride, but if you'd like to say anything, feel free. And, you know, if you want to talk about how great of a dad you have, well, that's certainly good. So anything you want to say, just chime in. Or if you say he did all the talking, he did fine, I'm good, that's fine too.
He was a very great dad.
Oh, let me zoom in. You can say that again.
He is a very, very great dad.
Wow. I think that sums it up right there. And I still am impressed that the young man says, I want my hair cut like Tucker.
Yeah.
So thank everyone.
And I'll also provide you emails from people who know me and know my relationship with the kids, you know, and how I handle them. You know, I can provide you with the emails where they sent emails to DCFS on my behalf.
All right.
You know,
Sure, we'll be happy to publish anything that we can.
It wasn't just me, you know, fighting.
I have no doubt you had allies. I have no doubt of that. Well, thank both of you for showing up today. That's exactly why this blog was formed. I think there's no better way than a first-hand account. The camera enables that to be done. I think you've done a magnificent job, but I want to thank you for coming in today and expressing your concerns about DCFS and be willing to sound off on those concerns. We want to thank everyone who tuned in, and we look forward to bringing you another edition of Sound Off Louisiana in the very near future. Thank you so much for tuning in today.